This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, which offers a number of tools to make you safer online and give you more options. It encrypts your personal data, blocks trackers to prevent targeted advertising, alerts you in case your logins have been hacked or leaked, and gives you access to content that may be blocked in restrictive countries. You know, in case some politicians think you might be looking at historical arms and armor to plan some sort of nightly uprising. Surfshark can be used on an unlimited number of devices across all kinds of platforms. There is 24/7 live customer support and 30-day money-back guarantee. Check out the link in the video description. With the code SCAL, you can get 85% off and 3 extra months for free. Good polearm reproductions are kind of rare on the market, at least compared to swords, especially ones that don't have a round pole. So I made one myself. This I made with hickory from a local hardware store, and it wasn't the correct thickness, so I had to glue 2 pieces together, which by the way is fine as long as you use proper quality glue and clamp them together. It can be just as strong as a one-piece construction. And so I cut a slot into the end here. If I had been smart and planning ahead, I would have fitted the tang right then and there on the 2 pieces, for a hidden tang design, and then glued it together. To be fair, at that time I still wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with this pole. I just wanted to make one and see if it works, as a quarterstaff if nothing else. And so then I decided to mount this blade on it. I originally wanted to make a sword staff, but this blade really is too short for that. For an actual sword staff, it would have to be quite a bit longer. This is a cutlass blade that I modified. It was originally single edged, so I cut it and ground it to be double edged. And yeah, I put this guard on. This also is a piece of mild steel from the hardware store that I bent into the S shape and shaped a little bit to make it more interesting than just a flat bar. The shaft is octagonal, so I used my table saw to cut 4 angles to make it beveled, and so now that allows me to actually control the edge very well, because it's not going to turn in my hand the same way that a round pole would. So with this I can actually cut pretty well. So the guard I made S-shaped, inspired by that picture of a sword staff. This one here looks different, of course, but yeah. And then I wanted to reinforce this with steel. I got a sheet of steel and wanted to wrap it around the entire thing. That turned out very difficult because of the shape. If it was just rectangular, it would have been a lot easier, but I just couldn't fit it properly. And I also, my main thing was, because I cut a slot into it, we have an exposed tang here. I filled it in with glue and I pinned it with 3 wooden pegs through the tang. So it should be solid enough, but it bothered me that the tang was exposed, so I decided to wrap it in linen cord with wooden glue underneath, so that should give it some extra strength, hold it together, make sure it doesn't split. Yeah, so that's where we're at. It's not a pretty piece because of my very, very limited experience with crafting, but this actually turned out pretty well. I like the cross section on this one, and it being hickory, it has quite a bit of heft. In fact, even as a quarterstaff, this would have hit pretty hard. Now with the blade at the end, of course, it makes it more forward heavy, but it's still perfectly agile, especially if you hold it this way, you can move it pretty fast. If you hold it further down, the way you would with a quarterstaff in the European tradition, this allows for very powerful strikes, of course. And you can also thrust with it. This would be the technique, or one of the techniques, that's prescribed in the manuals, where you allow it to slide through your lead hand. So this really gives you a lot of precision. I would argue that this is not as powerful as a fully committed 2-handed thrust, because basically you're turning this into a single-handed thrust. You're basically just using one arm, the other hand is just there to stabilize it and guide it. Whereas if you really engage both arms and put your body weight into as much as possible, it's potentially more powerful. Now, of course, you can combine it. You can bring your body weight into it and step forward at the same time while you do this. So in that case, I think really in practical terms, the difference in power is probably negligible. In fact, you could argue that you get more out of this that way, because not only do you bring your body weight to bear by stepping into it, but you're also accelerating it at the same time. And the nice thing about this is that it doesn't telegraph as much. So if I hold my polearm like this and I do that, when I retract it and then piston out, this is a lot easier for you to see, because you see there's something going on. If I hold it retracted and come forward like this is a lot more difficult for you to see because you don't have that anticipatory movement. Of course, there are a lot of neat things about polearms. There's a reason why they dominated the battlefield, after all. This one here I kept pretty long. Historically, there are longer polearms than this. In fact, some quite substantially longer. But I might shorten this one just to make it easier to carry around and all that. But of course, this gives you a lot of reach. Just hold it this way so you can see better. You can be fairly deceptive with it if you tug it in and then you extend it like this. That gives you quite a bit of unexpected reach, as opposed to if you hold it out here like this and just step into it, it's a bit more predictable. But everything has its pros and cons, of course. It just depends on the situation. The reason why I want it to be double-edged is so that I can cut on the way back. Because the problem is, if I wanted to do this with the main edge, I really can't. And from this side, how am I gonna come around for a backhand cut? It's just not happening. I mean, depending on how you hold it, you may be able to do it. If you grip it like this, then you may be able to cross the arms. It's just such an awkward cut. There are techniques where you tuck it under the arm like that, but I like to be able to do this because this is extremely quick. You come back around immediately and you have that other edge without really compromising your biomechanics. And of course, you can also cut like this, have a rising cut upward. I also like to be able to hook and control with the guard here. So let's say I aim at his head, he steps aside and I miss. I've got something here. Now I'm able to control him and pull him down to the ground and then follow up there. Or if I miss by just a little bit, the guard might still get him in the throat. Originally I was planning to add a blade to the butt end as well, which could be used, and some historical spears and polearms have some kind of spike at the end. So, but I just ran out of time. Has been way too much to do. I'm totally behind on just about everything. So this will just have to be it, I guess. But it's pretty cool to kind of mess around with this and get a feel for it, because I just haven't handled that many polearms so far, and I really like them. It's just, there's so many on the market that are not terribly good. And I mean, this isn't a fantastic piece of craftsmanship by any means, but at least it doesn't have a round pole, so you can actually cut more effectively. This may also be a good opportunity to make a point about a design choice that people made for the weapon design contest that ended just recently. I've seen a number of polearms that have something on the haft. In one case there was like a long guard that connects there. In some cases it's either an extra guard or some kind of riser or something along those lines. And I can appreciate the idea with that. You know, more protection is generally good, but in this case you actually want to be able to move your hands freely on it, because there are a lot of situations where you want to be able to adapt. Like, for example, if I hold it this way and the opponent manages to control it and close in, if I don't move my hand and I try to strike just with this, this would be substantially weaker than this. So if I'm able to move my hand freely, I can actually slide it up in the middle of the strike to get additional leverage. So instead of doing this, I would do that. Also for grappling, say I want to hook his legs, I wouldn't be able to reach them here. Just imagine he has legs. So if I move this, I may be able to accomplish that then. Well, let's see how it cuts. Pretty well, I'd say. Shaved off a little bit. What if somebody's rushing you and you have to defend yourself close distance? Of course, this doesn't translate very well to making a disabling cut on a potentially armored opponent, but yeah, I like this. Short answer. I made a thing, I like it, sue me. Sometimes an enemy is so far away, even a polearm isn't enough, but you still want to end them. There you go. Don't throw away your main weapon, it's kind of dumb. Well, since I'm basically already kind of reviewing something I made myself, might as well do a stress test. I mean, I didn't make the blade, I just modified it, but the crucial part here is where you join it to the haft, so that could fail. Well, so far so good. There's a nice rotted tree stump, perfect for my nefarious purposes. The issue with such a blade like this is it's very wide here, so it doesn't concentrate the force as well as a more tapered blade would. But of course, if it does enter, you can imagine, that's a lot of steel. A lot of penetration, that's what she said. Boom! Yeah, I think it's fair to say this works. All right, hope I could maybe spark some more interest in polearms. We need more RPG characters with polearms. I mean, maybe we don't. They're not that rare anymore. Anyway, or maybe you want to make one yourself. If you don't have a table saw, you can still do this. It's just going to be more time consuming. You can really shape it in all kinds of ways. Even just a knife technically is enough. It's just going to be more challenging to get it symmetrical and everything, but you can do all that, some sandpaper. As far as wood glue is concerned, there are a lot of good options. Personally, I like Tight Bond. If you want a specific recommendation, I link it down below. Just based on the tests I've seen, it's performed very well. And yeah, there's not that much to it. I mean, that's probably a lie. It's probably a lie. It took me quite a while to make this. There's not that much to it. Yeah, depends on your experience level and all that, how handy you are. And I would definitely recommend hickory if you can find it. It is very strong, tough wood. Ash also works quite well. Oak, as far as I know, may not be as impact resistant. It's a very hard wood, but it may be more prone to cracking and fracturing under hard impact. That's about enough. So thanks for watching. Hope you found it interesting, and have a good one, folks. Bugs. To hell with them. I wish I could just all skewer them. A bit too small though. I gotta tell you, my second favorite season after fall has always been spring, but not in this place. Even though it's now summer and it's starting to get hot and my skin is kind of allergic to the sun, so I have to cover up to not get skin cancer, the bugs are a little better. A little. There's more mosquitoes now, but the black flies have stopped. And I really appreciate that. They were actually even worse than the skeeters, believe it or not, because they are out at all times. I mean, mosquitoes are supposed to have kind of a a daily schedule, if you will. They're supposed to come out mainly after 4. Not here. They're out all day apparently. But it's still better right now than it was before in fall, in spring, I mean. Fall has done nothing wrong, ever. Who cares? This is what you want, right here. Shut up, Squidge. I command you to be silent. Make it octagonal. Fuck off, fly, you piece of You know what I mean. Boom, do you know what I mean, Bob? Fuck off, Skeeter.
Fuck off, Skeeter.